if you will. Doom, are you back?
Yes, sir. I am here, ready to go. Sorry about that,
All
brother.
right.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Just don't let it happen again, or I'm never going to talk to you.
Okay.
Okay. So, all right, man. So, Doom's here. Now, again, this is interesting to me. Why? Because you are, and again, I'm going to let you intro yourself too as well. But for me, one of the important things to really kind of get out of the way up front is you are playing in the second strongest KvK group, arguably in history, but at least for the G2 pool, which is the main KvK pool at the moment. You are also in there with some heavy hitters. You guys got WB, you got TFS, you got NF57, BDO, LUNO, right?
Yep.
It is a super matchup for all intended purposes. But go ahead, give us an intro real quick, right? Who are you? Who do you represent? How long have you been in the kingdom? How long have you been in your role?
Okay. Yeah, I'm Doomstar. I'm from server 110, the Ronin Kingdom. Also, everybody kind of knows this as ROG, Ronin Guard. So I've been in since season 1 plus when we initially formed. And I'm the war leader. I'm one of the R5 types. We have a couple. We rotate because this job's really demanding. But yeah,
And
and then
thankless. So
I got a lot of people thanking me a
oh,
lot.
never mind,
I
dude.
get
Oh my god.
appreciation. Yeah. Yeah.
Damn.
So we have like a
Management's appreciated in 110? Say
yeah,
less.
we have like an end of season survey where everybody complains, but also
Okay.
they also thank us for a lot of the work we do. I mean,
That's
this
awesome.
zone 2 war, I was up for 20 hours a day. I only slept 4 hours a day, so it's crazy, trying to be on all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, no, I get you. It's definitely still thankless. Most of the people don't realize what happens. Yeah, yeah. I'm happy to be in this KvK, man. These guys are awesome, and including our opponents. Respect for every single one of them.
Okay. Okay. So thank you for the intro, Doom. Now, I want to get to some of what could be maybe some juicy bits, or maybe not, but maybe I just want to illuminate a little bit here.
Mhm.
Walk me through KvK diplomacy. How did things start
This
off?
one,
Yes. So for this
okay.
KvK, between again, what is the six kingdoms in your group, which are some of the six strongest kingdoms in the game, with who we announced, right, is LUNO and 5, BDOs and 41, NF57 and 57, that's one team. And obviously we know now 40 TFS, 249 WBA or WB, and then 110 for you guys with ROG.
Yeah.
How did diplomacy start? Was everyone invited into a Discord? Did it feel like everything was on the up and up? What in your experience, how did KvK diplomacy play out uh, after the kingdoms were announced? Who was in what group?
Sure. So I will start off by saying, in the history of KvK diplomacies, this was the smoothest and most open to a fair and balanced matchup. I don't think there were any issues. Even like we decided the Darklings when we all six of us decided when was the best time to have the Darklings killed. So it started our pass our events when the pass opened, so that we had activity from everybody to have fun. It was just the best one I've ever had and smoothest. So the way it started, Jason from TFS, he's always on it. I've learned. He immediately invited all of us to a diplomacy Discord,
Okay.
and um, we were kind of waiting on his stats guys to get everything to display. His stats guys, by the way, are top notch. Kudos to them. So, and then when we got everybody in, it was all six of us. We waited for all six representatives from all six kingdoms. We got in. Jason shared the stats, right? And we basically, and this was starting the timer, right? When everybody got in, he shared the stats. Start timer. 14 minutes later, we figured out our teams, and it was like easy. A couple of proposals went up. We wanted to make sure there was fighting in at least one of the two zones, because this map, you're not going to get fighting in both zone 2 and zone 3 sometimes, unless you're like us in NF57, where we're the sandwich. So we get fighting in every zone, which we really, really wanted, because last season we didn't get a lot of fighting. But so it was great. We were all okay. We went through a couple of proposals. I think we went with the first proposal. and we showed the numbers. Every single proposal was like pretty balanced and even.
Okay.
We agree, it was just over and done with. We all just, it was like super chill. I mean, I'm not even kidding. There was no like arguing or anything like that. We found a match and we stuck to the match. Everybody gets fighting, and that was it. I mean, it was that simple. I mean, I don't know what else you want, man. No, that's it. It's literally that simple.
Yeah. So to be fair, even though, and this is the thing that I want to be very clear on. Not everything has to be right for some people that might be wondering. It doesn't always have to be some kind of like dramatic KvK diplomacy. Just the fact that you guys were able to essentially do what, and again, I still remember I told you about this. I still got to reach out to everyone else there because this is something I really want to do like a solo, like investigative piece on covering, because the fact is that your KvK diplomacy from your perspective, saying that it went so that it was so effortless from A to Z, it took barely any time to figure out. Everyone showed up, from what you're making it sound like, professionally engaged and wanted to try and approach it with being on the same page and trying to get to something where it doesn't drag out for days upon days upon days. And everyone feels satisfied with the team and the arrangement. Dude, I mean, that in and of itself, to me, is a massive win, right? And I'm showing this on screen for those of you that are curious, right? This is the matchup in very basic numbers that we talked about before this KvK and the other G2 KvK started. And you can see here, like the numbers are not bad, right? On either side, you have a little more power, a little bit more general T5s on one side, and on the other side, you got a more 100 mil pluses. This is one of the things that we often talk about when you're looking to do matchups, because we understand that it's not always going to be perfect. And so usually the major points of interest is that, at least I advocate for, is if you're going to have a little bit more power, a little bit more universal T5s at 60 mil plus and above, then on the other side, you should have some more 100 mil pluses. And obviously you can work out however you guys want to do that, or however you consider it. But like, that's what I kind of go off general. So the fact that you are saying that, hey, listen, this KvK diplomacy went off without a hitch, it was the best one so far, that in and of itself, honestly, is a shocking testament, because you don't usually hear that about how KvK's diplomacies went on average. Usually it's taking a lot longer than that, and there's always at least some bit of spice in what seems to be quite a lot of them. I guess, can you speak to maybe just to maybe give the people a sense here, can you speak to like what you felt your worst KvK diplomacy experience was, regardless if you want to name names or not? Can you maybe walk through what that experience was like versus this, and how monumental of a difference?
So before I get into that, I want to comment one more time, or one more thing about this KvK. I will mention that there were preferences. Some kingdoms want to be with others, but every single kingdom in this KvK was open to being with whoever. And there are political like rivalries, I guess. So it's not like everybody is neutral to each other. There are factions that don't like each other, but the leaderships were okay generally. Whatever was most fair and balanced and got the most fights for our people. That was what I felt was the vibe in the Diplo. So, politics does play a big part in diplomacy, but part of being in leadership is making sure that your players gets content for the season. Okay, that's super important. And I think everybody in that call, the diplomacy call, that was their priority, was getting content for their players. So kudos to all other 5 kingdoms leaderships. Thank you. All right, to your question.
Okay, but what he's really saying is 110 above all. Go. Okay, continue.
Oh yeah, Ronins are, yeah, go for it. Go Ronins. All right, so there's 2 KvKs where diplomacy I felt was a little it fell short, but I'm gonna pick the one. It was calling a courage, I believe.
Okay.
It was 110. I don't remember the server numbers. It was 110, I believe, GLR. Glory, and BPT. They had like a sub over there, and then that was in us versus BTR, EXP, and IBO. IBO was like the small. It
Oh
was
wow, so
like there
this
were
is
six.
this is pre BTX merge.
Yes, this BTX is EXP and BTR,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think this is where this catalyst started when they allied.
Okay.
But if you go back, and I'm sure you have the stats, you can look at the stats. You can see it was kind of uneven. So we were trying to make a fair and balanced match, and we actually had a good relationship with EXP. We were trying to ally with them. We were trying to show them the numbers. Um, there was a rivalry between BTR and ROG, right? So and obviously ROG and BTR couldn't ally anyway because that'd be unfair. The fighting was a lot more. It was like better if we were to ally with EXP instead of GLR, because GLR was like opposite of us. So it was a really awkward KvK. It was uphill. I didn't like how that diplomacy went. Even EXP's R5 told me that this is unfair, but it's a vote system over there, and they wanted to go with BTR. That's what you got to do. I mean, if that's what the diplomacy is, then you have to accept it. But I do feel like that was probably our worst diplomacy experience. But I mean, every single diplomacy experience that we've had, with the exception of maybe um, season two, yeah, every single diplomacy experience for us has had some sort of problem with it due to politics, and that's not meaning we're innocent on this. We've had preferences and stuff because of our politics with other kingdoms where we won't ally with them, and that's a weakness. That shouldn't happen, and we're trying to get better on that, and we have gotten better on that. It's like something you learn, but it's that was probably our worst one. And there's nothing against BTR and EXP, which is BTX now, guys, but I mean, if you go back and look at the numbers, that was pretty lopsided, guys. So that's what we felt. We felt that it was a quote unquote Diplo win, but they just really wanted to play with each other. That's fine. I understand that, but in a situation like a 2v2 camps, it was like two camps versus two camps. Like, you just can't do that. It was too lopsided. It was ridiculous. It was really bad. A really bad diplomacy KvK. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer.
Yeah, it was. Keep it shorter. We're gonna end this interview.
Yep.
So yeah, no, it's fine. Okay. No, I appreciate that, and I think if anything, the fact that you went into that much detail, I think speaks to the volumes of when you're comparing how this KvK went, which obviously there's only so much you really can say because of how well it went overall compared to ones in the past, which to me, I feel like that is a massive testament to all of those involved in in this KvK in particular, for how all of those combined efforts led to a very quick and speedy KvK diplomacy where everyone felt like, okay, hey, we're all pretty satisfied. We feel like we kind of everyone got what they wanted, for the most part, and you're able to kind of move forward. So
Yeah.
let's segue a bit. So you guys finish KvK diplomacy. You feel content about the matchup. Now you are starting off and fighting. What was the expectation going in for what was going to be your zone 2 fight? Was it like, okay, look, everyone's on board right now. We're going to try and get massive PvP in zone 2. We are only expecting our opponents to fight us just as equally, right? And obviously you guys ended up going up against LUNO in that case.
Mhm.
How did again, obviously, despite LUNO having the zone 2 control right now,
Yeah.
how did the zone 2 fighting start? And and I guess, did you guys feel fulfilled going through it? And then more importantly, what did you learn about LUNO that maybe you didn't know before after fighting them in zone 2?
Sure. Yeah, so the zone 2 fight started pretty active. Initially, we were just going to go into full defensive mode because, I mean, really, realistically, we would lose zone 2 anyway once pass 3 opens, because we can't fight 1v2. So we weren't really like invested in it. The only people RSS healing were the whales that could just buy the resource packs from the game thing shop or whatever, and and no elixir. We didn't do any of that. So I mean, we already knew we were going with a disadvantage, but we wanted a lot of fight. But after like playing with Luno, and much respect to you guys, there wasn't a lot of there was some banter in World Chat, but there wasn't like toxicity. Like, so we're like, you know what? Let's give them a fight. Let's do some open field stuff. So we did that. We did a Bastion fight with them. That was fun. And we had our time. We had our good time, and then we bunkered down at the spires and they put up a very mean offense, and we gave it everything we got. I mean, we didn't pull out of the zone until we couldn't get 100K of troops in a march. That's what we do. And it was a good time. I mean, GG's to Luno, but Zone 2 we don't care about. Let's be real. It has nothing to. We're going to lose it anyway. So we got our fight in. Now we're preparing for Zone 3. Zone 3 is the coup de grace. That's like the big fights for this KvK, for their team and our team.
Okay. So the reason I ask about the Luno question specifically is because Luno, for all intents and purposes, obviously since the name change, the Noir transition from Noir, it has kind of felt like they have been trying to re-identify themselves, right? Rebuild up anything that may have been lost, because obviously we know some people migrated out. There's changes in management. Anytime you're going through something that, whether you want to say massive or just intricate, multi-layered, right? It's not like you're just dealing with one thing, you're dealing with multiple things there. They still have to kind of be able to come and put their best foot forward. So I guess when you guys were fighting, like, did you feel like, man, they really, like, obviously apart from what you said, they came out, they had really good activity. Did they seem coordinated and organized and disciplined to you, at least from what you saw?
Yes.
Okay.
Their strategist is very good with their calves. We're trying to learn how to deal with calves. I think we're getting it down, but they are really well coordinated. You can definitely see hints that these guys were Noir. I mean, they're still a pretty powerful kingdom. They're very active. Much respect to them. They got some weaknesses too, which I exploited pretty easily. But their job was to grind us down, to make sure we don't go into Zone 3, with full, ready to go against them, because they're basically getting us weaker to fight NF57, which is where the real fight is. That was their job, and they did it very well. That's why we kind of just gave up and pulled out.
Okay.
But they're a really solid alliance. I don't know them. Like I said, they're from G1. We're G2. We have nothing against them. They did really well. It's all GGs, man.
Okay, awesome. Now I'm curious, when it comes to like war prep and KvK prep, what are some things that or maybe even before we get there, what are some things that you guys did in 110 against Luno that either that you liked, and or maybe some things that, maybe some things you guys tested, or some things that you wanted to try out or work on, that you thought, oh, hey, this went pretty well, maybe we'll explore a little bit more of this. I guess, again, even if you don't want to go into maybe any specifics or super details there, was there anything like that happened with your team, where there were things where it's like, look, we're gonna organize this way, whether it's something tactical, strategical, something micro related that you guys did against the fight that you thought, hey man, like, our guys did this really well, and I was really surprised about how we handled this situation or this interaction?
Yeah, I can go into some detail. I don't want to give it away, but one of the meta right now is calves and blink infantry. If you don't know, that is the meta right now. You run blink infantry in, and then you push, and then you kill the DPS. So we're learning that now. They've got it down to a T. But what they do lack in is their mages and archers aren't very good at targeting, and I've exploited that. And every time we get a window, we push through and we kill most of them. But in return, they're really good at the calves and blink imp. So it's kind of like it's a trade.
Okay.
But that's kind of where it's at. I mean, their tower on tower fighting, that type of stuff, the bastion placements, all that stuff. Of course they're going to be really good at that. They're a top competitive kingdom, so they've got that down. I mean, I don't know if you saw where our bastions were on the top spire and stuff. I mean, they could not break that. That's why they went the south route. Like we've got all that down. They've got all that down. It was a really good fight. It probably still will be going if we decided to, fully heal with all of our RSS and stuff. But it's just, like I said, Zone 2 is not important. But
Yeah.
they know what they're doing. They definitely know what they're doing. They're coordinated. I mean, it's going to be a great KvK, man. I'm telling you. I can't wait to see what this KvK turns into.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, it sounds like, which again, man, mad respect for anyone that's able to kind of give kudos and recognize the efforts of others, especially in situations while it's still going on, regardless if maybe the outcome didn't play out the way as for particularly for zone 2 that, maybe you guys, just like anyone would, I imagine, would love to win every zone. I don't think anyone goes into fighting in a zone saying, yeah, we're just so excited and happy to just to be there, but we don't care if we lose, kind of a thing. So, walk me through now when it comes to your KvK war prep. How much time goes into that? Who's usually handling that? What are some things you guys do just from like an organizational standpoint that you think helps out all of the players in your kingdom, in your alliance, to just be that much more ready to go for when KvK starts, at least for what you're able to share, what you're comfortable sharing?
Sure. And this is something that should be common knowledge for every competitive kingdom. I know that because I see that. So, preparation for a war is two things: it's logistics and building. Logistics being you need to calculate how many towers you need to build and how much resources you need to use. And the biggest resource or the hardest resource you need is alliance points, especially if you're running 4 shells. And every single one of my opponents are running 4 shells. So you have to make sure you move players to these shells to generate those alliance points so that you have the alliance points to use when you need them. That's a big thing. And then, of course, the builds, right? The builds have to be very efficient and precise. Timings, everything, when to use your build buff, things like that. So like you're kind of like drawing your plan out when you're doing war prep, with all the different R4s that deal with building and the logistics, like I just went over. And then, of course, the strategic part of war, right? So you're kind of combining those things into one plan. So when that gate opens up, everybody knows what they're doing. It's all, you're not trying to like figure it out last second. It's all ready to go. And that way you can just focus on the fighting part.
Okay. And I guess this segues me into the next one, because I always find this fascinating in, you know, uh, in leading alliances and kingdoms myself before. One of the things I've always found is one of the most difficult and interesting parts to basically really get a good grasp on is trying to increase your conversion rate from how many players are actually going to participate in the KvK, that are going to be fighting and PvP engaged, and how can you get players to feel more confident and more comfortable when it comes, especially for those that may not have a lot of KvK fighting experience, or ways to just make it so when they do log on, they are able to maximize their time as best they can, right? So they're not logging on and like wondering, okay, what do I need to do? What are some things that you guys do for your player base that you find are either just good best practices, good tips that you would recommend for being able to get the average player in your kingdom, in your alliance, at the ready, so that way they're good to go before the fighting starts and are also in a position to know exactly what they need to do to maximize and save the amount of time when they do log on?
Yeah, so a lot of the very first thing you do is you need to communicate to your players what's expected of them for the KvK, not just the time invested that they're going to need. Like this one, I told everybody be ready because we're fighting all season. So, and then there's like what you need to work on. So my kingdom is weak in certain areas, so I say, hey, you need to work on this so we can catch up, right? We're really strong in some areas, we're weak in these areas, work on these areas, right? So there's all that kind of preparation that goes into it. And then when the fighting actually starts, when the player logs on, we use Discord to communicate. But there are players, we have players that don't understand English because English is the majority spoken language, understood language in our kingdom. So we have like we call them war supports. They're like sub war leaders that their job is to. They have a lot of different jobs, but one of their main ones is to relay what's happening in Discord from the war leader to the chat so that they can then translate it and see what they do. And the commands are very simple.
Oh,
Like go here. Like we have like markers that correspond. Go to this marker. Go to that marker. That way they can kind of it's very quick as long as they're translating it. And then they kind of learn what it looks like they may not understand what go to this marker means, right? But they in English, I mean, but they kind of know what it looks like now. Okay, I see that means go here, right? They kind
yeah.
of learn English a little bit, and it's crazy. Like once everybody kind of gets it and stuff, you can do some pretty crazy stuff in the open field. um, because everybody's listening or following directions. Not everybody. There's some that just refuse to read. I swear. But yeah, I mean, it's great. Communication's the biggest thing in active war is communication. That's so. However, you got to do it, either Discord or like some other app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me, what's one thing that you would love to see them add in the game just to help with war communication and or giving out instructions? Could it be something like one of the things I've proposed before is having a dedicated war chat that all the players in the alliance could switch to, and then they make that their primary default chat during wartime, right? So you can like have different chats as like your default, or basically what pops up for you on
Yeah.
the bottom, and or maybe you can customize the chat, uh the chat size, right? So like maybe instead of having it just be small there, maybe you can make it double the size, right? Maybe you can have it going along your right. Maybe you can put it at the top right. Maybe you can have a war fighting interface that
hmm
makes it so you're only seeing relevant information on the screen, or the information you want to see. And then you can also have some kind of a larger or maybe more expanded live chat, but is basically just a war chat that you can kind of switch to, and that's where all the community, I guess, something like that, or anything else. Like what do you see when you're out there fighting, you're commanding, or your commanders are commanding? What is something you think would really help that also could make sense for the game to add in that would really help during KvK wars?
Sure. Simplicity in this regard is crucial. Most players on their phones, it's a small screen. They can't see a whole bunch of UI and stuff. They're not gonna see what's actually going on. So a simple chat, like you're saying, that would just kind of show up, um, would be great. That's cool. One thing that I would really like to see is creating markers instead of taking you out of like when you create a marker, it takes you out of the screen,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like pops up, you can't do anything. I would like it to be a little like smaller, where I can just click on it, create a marker, and I can just add it real quick instead of like it kind of just takes you out of the fight for a second, so you can add a marker. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but it actually is.
No, massively. So almost like,
Um,
so you're almost saying like some of you could have one of your commanders like drag and drop it, from a sidebar or
Yeah, that would
something.
be that. Oh my god, if they could make drag and drop markers, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you put a marker out and then the opponent shifts,
Yeah.
and then you got to go back and change that marker.
Yeah.
And it gets tedious. It
So
gets really tedious.
it's like I'm telling you, man, like you're making my brain I'm having like Jimmy Neutron brain blast, like I'm firing on all cylinders right now as we're going. So something like a drag and drop marker, but then the marker can be adjustable in real time. So like you could double click on
Yeah.
it and then maybe move the marker if you need to, right? So the commanders could take a little bit more control there.
Yeah, or
Okay.
press down on it if you're on your phone touchscreen. You
Yeah.
just kind of press down on it for a second and then move it.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. And then maybe they could do something where you can customize the markers. So like maybe you can write in custom text for the markers, and maybe they give you a lot more maybe they give you a lot more marker shapes, but the marker shapes are all like war base shapes, like they're things that would make sense. Or you could have the kings and queens suggest, like, what kind of markers would you like to see added in the game? And then they allow for you to edit the text. So that way, when a marker drops, you'll have like a big piece of text, and or like maybe it's like big letters of text will show up initially, and then they'll decrease in size after like 2 seconds or something, right? So that way, it's a little bit more of a standout-ish thing to all the players.
Yeah, and yeah. I mean, they kind of have that in the alliance markers, right? But if you're in a big kingdom, a lot of times you might not all be in one shell. You might
Yeah,
be in two different shells for whatever reason. So we use warband markers, and the icons there are just 1 through 10. That's it.
yeah.
So that would be nice. Also, like maybe when you mark a player, maybe a setting where when you zoom out to dot mode, you can still see that markout. When
Oh
you
yeah,
zoom out.
yeah.
That would be kind of cool. The communication's got to be very simple. We don't want something super complicated.
Yeah.
But it does need to be a little more streamlined, and that's the ways that players can kind of see what the war leader is saying or doing or marking a lot easier, and I think you would have a lot better fights that way too. Um,
No, absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. Okay. Let me ask you about Zone 3 prep. So
yeah,
you guys are now in a situation where you being over there in Skewden, or excuse me, not Skewden, apologies. You guys are over in Sturden or Steriden, if I'm saying that right.
yeah. Yeah, I didn't even know what it was called. I just said that, to be honest.
Like, I don't even know what it's like. Okay. So, and then you guys are going to be going into Azenor with, with NF57.
Yep.
So, I guess what your expectation going forward? Do you feel like NF57 is going to be a potential harder fight than LUNO? Is it, or do you feel like, you know what, maybe we feel like it might be about the same for what we're going to end up getting? I mean, on their side, WB was able to push them back, right? Very similar to how LUNO pushed you guys back. So again, I don't know if you guys have paid attention to like how much more fighting you guys did, maybe versus them. Have you looked at any of those numbers or have any
Yes.
inkling? Okay, so what have you guys surmised when it comes to readiness levels for your kingdom going into Zone 3 versus 57?
So NF lost pretty quick against WB, and I'm pretty certain is because Zone 2 does not matter. We held Zone 2 till the rock was done, so we got the elite rock, and then we were out.
Okay.
I don't think they received their rock, but like that's all we wanted, right? There's no point. Zone 2 has no value.
Okay.
So their entire strat is to save everything for Zone 3. That's very similar to ours, right? The only people that RSS healed were people that could afford to just RSS heal in Zone 3 too. We're holding out. That's what they're doing. So I don't really know. I have never fought them before. These guys used to be VVV, if you guys don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So like they were a pretty good alliance back in the day. I remember
Yeah.
watching them. So
Yeah, Bob.
those
Yeah, my 65 OG homie, Crazy Bob
those
used to play
those
there in VVV.
that core. I'm pretty certain that core leadership's still there. So I mean, they're experienced. I don't know, and that's the great part about this KvK for us is we don't know. The only other kingdom that we've played against or with is BDO. That was last season, and
Oh,
we
nice.
got 1.5 days with BDO, and then it was over because we didn't get to fight till last zone. So like this for us, we're learning. We're meeting new people, whether we're fighting them or with them. It's great. It's great. But I think Zone 3 is going to be a bloodbath on both sides.
Okay. All right.
I think NF57 is going to give us everything they got, and if you're listening, guys, we're going to give you everything we got, and then we're not stopping. We're coming for you. So it's going to be fun. And it's all GGs at the end of the day. I will say, Zone 3, and our opponents know this. Our Zone 3 is the win condition for the KvK most likely. So everybody knows it, right? So there's a pass 5, there's a pass 6. There's going to be a lot of fighting, and we're in F57 and 110 is smack dab in the middle of it, and we're on the opposite sides of where we want to be. So it's going to be a fun one to watch, Ben. I'm telling you, like it's going to be crazy. We can't wait.
Yeah. No, man. Absolutely. Gosh, yeah, dude. I'll tell you this. I'm very much so. Now, I will say this, right? I think it's always awesome when you're able to get a situation where you find yourself playing against new people, right? Because it's not too often, especially with, again, let's be fair, what I know has been a crux for some people in not being able to get their and not being able to get fresher matchups. Let's just say that where it's new faces, more often, if you will. So I guess I'm curious for you guys coming in. How has some of your previous seasons been? Where again, have you more often, or was it more frequent where you guys were getting or seeing more of the same faces? I mean, based on what you're saying, you got 4 new kingdoms you guys are playing against this season. I guess how has your previous experience been compared to now?
I mean, so previous experience is G2, okay?
Yeah.
So, because G1 is now here, but my experience is mostly G2. And we really only saw the same alliances. We saw Zoo a bunch of times, we saw BR a bunch of times, we saw BTR like 3 times in a row, and what happens is when like those rivalries start and then it gets worse and worse and worse. And then it gets to the point where like you just get tired. Whether you're gonna win or not, you just get tired of fighting the same people, or over and over and over and over again. And until there are options on the table for the top kingdoms
Yeah.
for like balance, right? Like right now, there's like 3 or 4 kingdoms that are always going to see each other every single time. And until the game devs give us the right tools, the fair tools to manage our kingdoms and get new people in to replace those people, those kingdoms that are up there, they're going to keep fighting the same time, the same people every season, because the kingdoms that are trying to get to their level can't. And the way they can't match, like they couldn't match Echo in this KvK, right? That wouldn't be very fair, right? Echo would be forced to take like a very disadvantageous um, uh, matchup again, just so that they can get fighting in, because they're super strong. So and there's a lot that goes into that. But being in most of the big alliances, being in the same pool now, we got this KvK we're in now, where I think we're the only G2 in here, right? I'm pretty sure. Um, BDO's G1, yeah, right? No, WB's with us. So, like they're all new. And the reason that happened is because all these G1s came into the same pool. So if everybody was in the same pool, you would see more diversity as far as the matchups and stuff. And you would see diplomacy like that we had
Do you
in ours,
feel?
in our game.
I'm curious. You remember how I had been advocating. From what I remember, I was one of the first people who did advocate for this. Was being able for you guys for kingdoms to be able to select their starting zones. I know
Yes.
we got this confirmed finally, which is lovely to hear on what that might open the doors for. But I know we got it confirmed from the COD team that they're going to be implementing that in future seasons, where kingdoms will be able to select their starting zones. When for yourself as a king in R5, I guess what was your reaction? What were your feelings towards that? Is it something that you just feel like, man, this is an absolute win. This is extremely positive. This is going to help out KvKs throughout their entire season. Hopefully, we'll be able to see a lot more PvP from this. We won't have limits or restrictions on potential matchups. Like, where was your head at for how you thought about that when you read?
So in a KvK matchup like this one, picking our zones would be no problem. I see a problem, and for the record, I am for picking zones. Okay, but right now in a KvK where politics dictates diplomacy, picking zones, whoever gets first pick will have an advantage. So it's kind of like when you're picking your team for a basketball like pickup game or
Mhm.
something. Whoever picks first, the other team gets the ball first, right? So like there needs to be some kind of give and take from it. Whoever picks first has some kind of other disadvantage. I don't know
Yeah.
what that would be,
It's like
but
they do it
that
like League of Legends style, where it's like one you could do it like if you like I said before, if you do the teams, if people get teams ahead of time, then one team gets to pick first, the second team picks twice, and then you go back to team A and they get to pick twice. So it's like 1-2-2-1, right?
Yeah, that
Or,
could
or
work. Yeah,
something to that
no, there
effect.
you
I know
something.
that's how they've done that in games like League and MOBA style games when they're kind of doing like picks, so to speak, for
Yeah,
champions they're going to use. So that way, like you said, the first team that gets to pick first doesn't feel like they have a just overwhelming
yeah.
advantage.
And then flip a coin, right? Flip a coin who gets to pick
Yeah.
first, or however you want to do that. That's because you need something in place for the politically challenged KvK diplomacy parts, right?
Yeah.
Like this KvK, it would have been no problem. We would have just been so like, all right, how are we going to get the most fights out of here? Rog, you guys didn't have a fight all last season. You want to fight all season? Yeah, okay, we'll take that. Like it it would have been fine, but I can definitely not. This is the exception. KvK diplomacy. Most diplomacies out there are just ridiculous. Some I even heard they never figured out diplomacy till like the fighting almost started. It was ridiculous, right? That should never happen.
Yeah.
It's bad for your players, guys. Like you got to get over some of these grudges, man. Like just get over it. Play with your team. Do the best you can, and for your players, because otherwise they're just gonna quit. I mean, no content equals dead. They're just gonna quit the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, I went on a tangent.
Okay. I got you. No, I appreciate. All right. Well, fam, listen, we are getting close to wrapping up here with Doom. There might be a few more things I want to touch on, but if anyone has a question for Doom, again, King leader of 110, right? He's in the second strongest KvK. If anyone has a question, I'm going to open the floor up for anyone watching as a viewer. If you want to type something in while we continue chatting for a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to. And then again, I will read that off to him if you'd like. So overall in the KvK, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on one of the things that I've mentioned and have proposed earlier, which was about, and I talked about this in one of my recent videos, like this idea of trying to get everyone to the final zone where even if you want to have like free for all fight zone 2 zone 3, but everyone has like this general agreed upon consensus of, listen, we're going to allow everyone into the FZ, but we'll put some kind of like timeline or expiration day on it, and once that expires, then anyone and everyone can, be attacked in zone 2, zone 3, they can get zone locked, so in my thought, it's like, okay, well,
So
hey, everyone kind of still gets to get the best of both worlds or all worlds. I'm curious, what do you think about that generally
sure.
as an approach for a KvK season?
So this was brought up in our diplomacy, okay? And I'm gonna be the devil's advocate for you because
Yep.
I know you like this last zone, final zone fighting, but let me throw you this angle you might have not thought about yet.
Okay.
We generally want a final zone fight. I don't think there's a kingdom out there that doesn't want a good final zone. But like if you just say, okay, you can go to final zone guaranteed, that kingdom that gets that guarantee may not be motivated enough to really fight for their right to go to final zone.
Mm-hmm.
So you might get less PvP out of it. So when we brought that up, it was like a 30-second discussion, right? I think I'm the one who brought it up as a, hey, do we want to do this or not, right? Because it's really only going to be between us and NF57 that would need to be ones, and that if we both had a guaranteed a final zone, I feel like that would take away the fighting. Now I think a fix for this, because I do feel like a final zone really needs to have everybody. I think the final zone just needs to be a freaking portal or something. I don't know. Like we all should go to final zone for sure. But there needs, if you got cut off from your pass, maybe there's a disadvantage, right? Starting to get to your final zone. Maybe there's like a 6 hour delay before you can open the portal, or 12 hour delay before you can open the portal or go to final zone. Something like that, where you're at a disadvantage, but you still get to go to final zone to fight. But because you lost your right to go to final zone because you got cut off, well, you now have that handicap. Something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
It's a really hard. It's hard to look at because just giving them the final zone means that they may or may not use that strategically to not even fight because we're going to go to final zone, we're going to save everything we got for final zone,
Yeah.
and then your opponent then gets less content.
So it almost sounds like maybe a potential workaround for that is just making the zone 2 and the zone 3 fights a little bit more worthwhile. Whether it's
Yeah.
whether it's more objective based, it's like you got to capture and hold for something and the rewards are just so good. Like not to where they're passive bonuses, but just like the rewards themselves that you can get from it are so good that it entices people to want to fight. And maybe that's the approach, right? For something potentially like that.
Well, right now they have that. I mean, in this case, in this map, right, there's a pretty important reward locked behind the Necro Giant. So you're gonna fight for that. But I mean, the thing is, if you go to finals, if you're guaranteed final zone, you fight final zone, and then you can come back and get your second place reward if you want. It's
Yeah.
just it's hard. I don't know. What
But at
was
the same
that
time,
map that
yeah.
there was a map that you were connected to the final zone. I forget which one. Was that the last one or the new it was the one where we teamed up. That one. I think that map was connected to the final zone from zone 1.
Huh.
That was kind of cool.
Okay. I'm blanking on that one right now.
It was the one where we teamed up.
I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was a good map. It needed a couple of tweaks, but that was a really good map. And then not the super fast building in Final Zone. Maybe what they just actually had, which I don't know if you know about Boss Nasty, but the preparation buff you get for building in Zone 1 because the season was shortened. We had like 2 days of it. So it's not just building was twice as fast, destroying was twice as fast, and you only needed one march to max the destruction time. One march. That was
Oh wow.
that needs to be fucking balanced. Sorry for my French, but I kind of like the pace of that for like Final Zone because it wasn't too fast, it wasn't too slow, but it wasn't like it takes 2.5 hours to kill a tower type crap. Like that's a little long.
Yeah.
For Final Zone.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I look at things like tower destruction and build time, and some people will differ on this. I like when things are just universal across the board, same time to build, same time to destroy, but at the same time, not something that's going to take 10 minutes to build and destroy, and like you said, not something that's going to take 2 hours maybe to build and destroy. I mean, I feel like you need somewhat of a little bit of a happy medium there that people can support and get behind. But I'm also not necessarily a fan of, and again, this is how I view it. I'm just not a fan of like, okay, well, the pass opening time favors one kingdom because it's more in line with their peak activity window, or it might be going into their peak activity window, and it's on the downtime for another kingdom. And because of the accelerated final zone building and destroying, they can get pushed out and or choke locked right outside of the dragon objective and or potentially pushed outside of the final zone altogether. And we know this because we've seen this happen in a number of KvKs from that particular KvK storyline. For me, that's my only thing is
it was too fast. That was too fast.
Yeah.
This one still took like 45 minutes to get a tower down, right? It wasn't terrible. It made it so that you're not sitting there for 2 hours babysitting a tower, like that. It's too long. Like I'm okay with universal times if they sped it up a little bit for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting stuff. All right. So overall,
anybody got a question?
I don't know. I don't know if anyone did. Let me double check real quick. But the last thing I want to ask you is, so far, any shout outs, declarations before I bring in my next guest, but any shout outs, declarations from you? Shots fired you want to dish out to the homies or the home grills in the KvK and 110? Anything you want to get off the chest lastly?
So I definitely want to give a shout out to my war team. They were up at late hours, doing stuff while I slept. My build team definitely want to give a shout out. They're doing incredible math and all this other stuff. And I want to give a shout out to Jason from TFS. I'm not trying to suck up, man, but thank you for organizing the diplomacy and getting it squared away, man. It It made this season so much better. I think for all of us, that is textbook how it should be done, for sure. You know, and to all the other kingdoms in this KvK, thank you for keeping things fun and not super toxic. I mean, we have banter, right? But it's not like I'm pretty sure it's not like the other KvK, the one above us. But yeah, and then if you want some banter, I mean, NF57, you guys better get ready. We're coming for that. We're coming for that ass. All right, we're gonna get you guys.
Yeah.
So you better be ready.
Because he likes ass. All right, so let me see here. Oh, hang on. So I got two questions. So Roberto asked,
Yep.
does Doomstar, do you really like pineapple pizza?
Yes, it's really good. I'll be making a peanut butter and banana pizza soon, and I'll share that on the CoD Gen when I make it. It's a dessert pizza for all my pizza fans.
Possibly scared, but okay, we'll see.
It's a thing. Look it up.
Okay. Let me see here. Sorry, Weed asked, why are you gee?
Okay, I'm not. I have a wife and a kid. I'm definitely not.
Yeah. I mean, even I know that. Platonically, of course.
Yes.
All right. Let me see. Here we go. Captain Cod asked, was Cap your best ally ever?
I love WoW, man. My allies last season were top notch. Communication, coordination. Yeah, Cap, you're definitely up there. It's one of our most favorite people to play with. GG, they were awesome to play with. Made a lot of friends. So yeah, allies, love them.
There you go.
Any other real questions, guys? Come on, don't waste this time.
Aras says, do you like Ross? Doom?
Yeah, it's freaking Eris. He's
it's
one of our guys.
Okay, got it. He's asking if you like him or not. Understood.
He's like a shell. He named that shell, Ronin Storm.
Oh, got it. Or he says, Doom, why are you killing the pizza?
All right.
I mean, maybe it's good. We don't know. Maybe it's good. He says, love you, Doom. Okay. Listen, I'm going to let Doom skedaddle. We have, so first and foremost, Doom, man, thank you so much. I appreciate you making some time. I'm definitely going to be releasing these as some solo videos too as well. So I'm really happy to be able to get you in today, and you made some time for us.
Anytime.
All right, man. I will leave you to it. You take care.
All right. Thank you. See you later, COD peeps.